Jin and Taehyung stood in front of the ICU door, their faces pale, their eyes swollen from hours of silent tears. Cameras had been pushed back. Reporters were silenced. The hallway of the hospital echoed with a kind of quiet that didn't feel like peace. It felt like fear. The clock kept ticking, but time had stopped for everyone who loved Jungkook. What exactly happened before this moment? And why is the world suddenly holding its breath, waiting for a single heartbeat to return? It began as an ordinary day that spiraled into chaos no one could have predicted. Jungkook had been found unconscious in his apartment. That's all the public knew. No one expected the news to break the way it did. Jungkook hospitalized, condition critical. The message spread across every platform within minutes, and soon, the global fandom that once screamed his name in arenas now whispered prayers in a digital vigil that never stopped. People cried. People hoped. People refused to believe what the headlines suggested. At 2:37 a.m., Jin and Taehyung arrived at the hospital. They didn't speak to the media. They didn't wave to the cameras. They walked straight in, heads down, trembling hands clutching their masks, and the silence in their footsteps was more painful than any statement could have been. Inside the ICU, through the thick glass window, Jungkook lay motionless. The youngest of them, the one they always called the group's heartbeat, was now surrounded by machines keeping that heartbeat alive. Why him? Jin reportedly whispered as he looked at the monitor flickering with every fragile pulse. Taehyung stood beside him, unable to speak, just gripping the edge of his jacket like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Every second felt like a year. Every beep from the monitor was both relief and torment, proof of life, but also a reminder of how fragile that life had become. And then came the moment that no one outside that hallway could forget. Jin's tears fell. Not the kind you hide behind sunglasses. Not the kind you wipe away before cameras click. Real tears. The kind that break the heart of anyone who sees them. Fans outside the hospital began singing softly, not to cheer, but to comfort. The melody was broken and trembling, but it carried something sacred. They sang for Jungkook to wake up. They sang because they didn't know what else to do. Who would have thought the strongest voices in the world would one day cry in silence? Who would have believed that the same man who joked on stage, who carried laughter through millions of screens, would now lie still, fighting to return to the world that loves him? The air around the hospital grew heavy, but no one left. Armies stayed, through rain, through dawn, through exhaustion. They didn't come for spectacle. They came because they couldn't be anywhere else. Doctors entered and left quietly. No one dared to ask questions anymore. Jin remained by the door, his hands pressed together in prayer, his lips moving without sound. Tae leaned against the wall, eyes red, whispering, "He's strong. He'll come back." But inside, even he knew the fear that no one wanted to say aloud. What if he doesn't? The streets outside Seoul National Medical Center were filled with candles. Thousands of fans held photos, posters, and handwritten notes. Messages like, "Wake up, Jungkook, we are waiting," and "You're not alone," covered the gates. Some prayed. Some simply stood in silence. The world that once watched them perform together now watched them fight for one of their own to survive. Inside the hospital, Jin refused to leave. Staff members brought him water, told him to rest, but he stayed rooted to that spot. "I promised him," Jin said softly to a nurse. "I promised I'd be there no matter what." The nurse later described the moment as unforgettable, the kind of love that doesn't need words, only presence. Tae eventually broke the silence. He walked up to Jin, touched his shoulder, and whispered, "Hyung, he'll want to see you first when he wakes up." Jin looked at him and smiled through tears, the kind of smile that hides both pain and faith. "Then I'll be here," he said, "until he opens his eyes." Outside, armies watched live updates, refreshing every second, praying that the next notification would say, "Jungkook is awake." But hours turned into days. The ICU lights never dimmed. The question echoed in every fan's mind. What really happened before he was found unconscious? Rumors began to swirl. Exhaustion, stress, overwork, but no official confirmation came. HYB's silence only deepened the worry. One reporter said, "I've covered celebrity news for 10 years, but I've never seen Jin cry like this. This isn't publicity. This is heartbreak." Another hospital insider said, "He's holding on for everyone. He hasn't left Jungkook's side for more than 10 minutes." Meanwhile, messages flooded social media from other artists, from fans across continents, from people who never even listened to BTS before but now felt part of the collective grief. The phrase, "Wake up, Jungkook," trended worldwide for 48 hours straight. In cities from Seoul to Sao Paulo, fans gathered, holding vigils in front of screens broadcasting hospital footage, and yet, inside the ICU, the only sound that mattered was the steady beep of Jungkook's heart monitor. Every beep was a message, "I'm still here." Jin leaned closer once, placing his hand gently on the glass, whispering, "Don't give up, kid. You promised we'd sing again." Taehyung's voice broke as he added, "You can't leave us yet." The room beyond that glass became a symbol of everything fragile and sacred about human connection. Fame stripped away, lights gone, music silenced. Just three men, bound by something stronger than any stage could hold. For fans watching from afar, it wasn't about celebrity anymore. It was about love, about how deeply they had all become part of each other's lives without even realizing it. As night fell again, rumors said Jin finally sat down and began humming. It wasn't a song for the crowd. It was something private, something that only Jungkook would understand. A melody they had shared during rehearsals years ago. Nurses passing by said they heard it. Faint, trembling, but full of hope. They said the monitors flickered, that Jungkook's pulse shifted slightly. Was it coincidence or something else? The world doesn't know yet. The official statement hasn't come. But what we do know is this. Jin and Taehyung haven't left. Not once. They're still standing there, tired, broken, yet unyielding, waiting for the youngest to open his eyes again. Every passing hour feels like a lifetime. Every moment stretches into eternity. And you, the one reading this now, what do you feel? Fear? Hope? Maybe both. Because this isn't just their story. It's everyone's story who's ever loved someone too much to lose. So don't turn away. Keep watching. Keep hoping. Leave your comment, send your prayer, share this story, and subscribe to stay connected until the moment we can finally say the words the world is desperate to hear. Jungkook has opened his eyes. Until that moment, the ICU remains silent. The fans remain faithful, and Jin and Taehyung, two brothers bound by love, continue to stand there, in tears, whispering the same thing over and over again. Wake up, Jungkook. We're waiting for you.